Hello students, today we are going to study predicate logic. So let's see what predicate logic is. Now if I say that all things made of chocolate are delicious. I say one statement that all things made of chocolate are delicious. Then I say chocolate paratha is made of chocolate, right? So in one statement I say that all things made of chocolate are delicious, and then following that statement I say that a chocolate paratha is made of chocolate. Now does it follow that a chocolate paratha is delicious? Now this may be true for some and this may not be true for some, or in other words, this may be true for some and this may be false for some. So I cannot consider it a proposition, because a proposition has a fixed truth value. Either it will be completely true or it will be completely false. But when I say a chocolate paratha is made of chocolate, what would be its truth value? It will not have a fixed truth value, because it may be true for some. Some people may like a chocolate paratha and some people may not like a chocolate paratha. So it may be true for some and it may be false for some. That means, precisely talking, it does not have a fixed truth value. So such statements cannot be considered as propositions, because as we know, all the propositions have a fixed truth value. So this is where predicate logic comes into existence. This is where we make use of predicate logic, because we know that obviously we cannot model this statement using propositions. In order to be a proposition, it needs to have a fixed truth value. Either it needs to be true completely or it needs to be false completely, which is not possible in this case. Okay. So now what are predicate logic? What is a predicate logic? A predicate logic basically consists of three important things. The first one is the variable. Okay, variables like x, y, z, these are known as the variables. These are also known as the subjects of the statement or statements. Then you have the predicates. Predicate depicts the property of the variables. Like when I say x is less than 0. So what is the property of x in this case? That it is less than 0. So this property of the variable is known as the predicate. So predicate is less than 0. And then we have the quantifiers. The quantifiers we will study in the next video. For now, we will study only variables and predicates. So we can say that predicates have three important elements: a variable, predicate, and quantifiers. A variable is denoted by any alphabetical symbol such as x, y, z, which is also known as the subject of the statement, and a predicate is the property of that subject of the statement, or a predicate is the property of a variable. For example, when I say x is less than 0, then is less than 0 is the property of x, which is the variable. So this is less than 0 is the predicate. Okay, now moving on. If I talk about predicates, if there is a statement which says x is less than 2, or if I say x plus y is equal to z. Now these statements are neither completely true nor completely false unless the value of these variables is specified here. I cannot tell you whether x is less than 2 or it is not less than 2 unless I know the value of x. So that means this is not a proposition. This is a predicate. Now, this statement x is less than 2 has two parts. One is the variable x, which is also known as the subject of the statement, and the second part is this predicate, which is the property of the variable x, which is less than 2. Okay, so basically I can say that unless the value of x here or the value of x, y and z here are specified, I cannot have a truth value for these statements. Hence, I cannot call them propositions. So what do I call them? I call them predicates. Okay, so now moving on. If I consider this predicate, which is x is less than 2, I can denote it by px. I can denote this statement of predicate, that is x is less than 2, or I can denote this predicate x is less than 2 by this symbol p of x, where p denotes the predicate and x denotes the variable. So I can clearly see that this looks like a function. This looks like a function where p denotes the predicate and x denotes the variable. So I can call it a propositional function. I can call this function as a propositional function where p is denoting predicate, or p is the symbol for the predicate and x is the variable, which is the subject of the predicate statement. Okay, so now what is a propositional function? When I say px is a propositional function, then what do you mean by a propositional function? Let's see this thing in detail. So, what is a propositional function? Okay, so when I say x is less than 2, I can denote it by p of x, which is also known as the propositional function. So, x is less than 2 here is the predicate, which has two parts, where the first part is the variable, which is also known as the subject of the predicate, and the other part, the second part, is the property of this subject or the property of this variable, which in this case is less than 2. So I can denote this predicate by x is less than 2 by the symbol p of x, where x denotes the variable, which is the subject of the predicate, and p stands for the predicate. So this is known as the propositional function. Now this propositional function can become a proposition if I replace this x by a certain value. Okay, so for example, if I replace this x by 3, so this becomes 3 is less than 2. So now it has a fixed truth value. 3 is less than 2. Is it true or false? No, this is false. So it has a truth value false. So now I can call it a proposition. So that means any propositional function can become a proposition when the variable is replaced by a value. Then I can clearly determine whether it is a true statement or a false statement. So that means when I have a fixed truth value for it, it can become a proposition from a propositional function. Okay, now we will see some examples for the same. So if Px is said to be the value of the propositional function for P at x. This is the propositional function, as I told you. This is the propositional function. So if P is the value of the propositional function at x or at variable x. So if Px, let us assume if Px denotes, what does it denote? X is greater than 0, or it can denote x plus y equals, or it can denote x equals to 2, or it can denote x is less than 4. So that means these all predicate statements are denoted by the propositional function P of x, where P is the value of a propositional statement at variable x, or I can say P is the value of the propositional statement at the subject x. Okay, so if I say P, if I replace this x by a certain value, let us say I replace this x by 3, and now if I want to find out if x is greater than 0, so minus 3 can never be greater than 0. You know, minus 3 is not greater than 0. So this has a truth value false. So now since I can give it a fixed truth value, so now I can call it a proposition. Unless I specified, I gave a certain value for the variable x, this was a propositional function. But the moment I gave a value for the variable x, it became a proposition. Why? Because now I could give a fixed truth value for it. So I know that minus 3 is not greater than 0. So for the statement minus 3 greater than 0, the truth value that I have is false. So this is a proposition. Again, if I substitute x by 0, so I know that 0 is not greater than 0, so again the truth value for it is false, and since I can achieve a truth value for it, it is a proposition. Then if I take P3, so P3 is greater than, for P3, 3 is greater than 0, this I know is true. So for this I have a truth value, hence this is also a proposition. So Px is called a propositional function, and P minus 3, P0 and P3 are known as the propositions.